is Yona from Field Teen Center, and these are 7 books you should read if you like haunted houses. These are organized from least to most scary, but of course this is kind of my personal opinion. What I find scary, other people might not find as scary. But there should be something on this list for everyone, whether you are kind of a chicken or really into horror. First on this list is Agony House by Cherie, which is one of my favorites because it has this unusual format. It's a novel, but there are comic book pages between some of the chapters, and there's a reason for it. The main character has just moved back to New Orleans with her mom and her mom's husband because mom has bought this house that was abandoned after Hurricane Katrina, wanting to fix it up into a bed and breakfast. But it's gonna take a lot of work before it's ready for that because the house is literally falling apart. It's really gross and moldy. There's a hornet's nest in one room. And as the main character very quickly figures out, it's super haunted. While she's exploring the house, being kind of creeped out, she also finds this old comic book in the attic that might be the key to what's going on, who is this ghost, and what do they want. This one is less of a horror story than a mystery. And for me, it was pretty clear what the answer to the mystery was, but it was still really fun to watch it unfold. This one was a lot of fun to read and I highly recommend. Next up is Phantom Heart by Creagh. It's a retelling of the Phantom of the Opera in a more contemporary setting. In what is going to become a running theme in this list, the main character's dad is renovating a spooky old Victorian house, and rumor in town has it the basement is super haunted. Because this is a retelling of the Phantom of the Opera, we already know that the ghost is a real person. But that doesn't mean that he's not still really creepy. This book leans more into the romance and the drama than the actual horror, but it still has some spooks and scares. Number 3 on our list is The Girls Are Never Gone by Sarah Glenn Marsh. In this novel, the protagonist doesn't believe in ghosts at all, but it's kind of her job to pretend she does and hype them up because she has a podcast where she explores haunted or supposedly haunted places and tries to debunk the haunting myth and prove that there's nothing actually there. So when she hears a rumor of a haunting outside the Arrington estate, of course she has to go check it out. In this book, the haunting is actually in the lake outside the house, but the house is definitely very creepy, so I think it deserves being on this list. This one is fun because it's sapphic, so there's definitely lots of scary stuff because the lake is haunted and there's also some gross out moments, but there's also some very cute, sweet moments between these 2 girls who are starting sort of a relationship. Another cool thing about this book is that it has some diabetes rep and a service dog. Number 4 is Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. The main character's dad was a literal serial killer, so home isn't exactly a cozy place for her, but when her dying mother asks her to come home, she begrudgingly does so anyway. Once she gets there, she starts finding these weird notes all over the house, and she can't tell if they are old notes her dad left before he died, new notes that her dad has somehow put in the house, meaning is he not dead? Or maybe it's the guy who started living in the backyard because he's really interested in the true crime history and thinks that her family drama is his business. It's hard to tell whether there's a literal ghost or just a figurative ghost happening in this story, and you'll have to read to find out, but it's definitely creepy and asks some questions about what it means to care about somebody who was kind to you but was not kind to other people. In this case, he was a literal murderer. One more cool thing about Just Like Home is that Sarah Gailey, the author, is non-binary. In Don't Tell a Soul by Kristen Miller, this time it's the uncle renovating a house, and the uncle's kind of sus. As the story unfolds, it turns out he's renovating the house because his former lover died in the house. She burned to death. The house is rumored to devour girls, and some of those dead girls might still be around. So this story explores mental health, mental illness, and also women's issues like abuse. There's some body mutilation. So this one gets a little bit more intense than others on this list, but it ultimately has a pretty cool message of women empowering women. It's a very twisty, surprising story, and it'll have the hair on the back of your neck prickling. Unlike some of the others on this list, this book does not have any romance. Also, shout out to this ethereal, beautiful, creepy cover. It's one of my favorites on this list. Number 6 on this list is These Fleeting Shadows by Kate Alice Marshall. She's the author of Rules for Vanishing, which is another ghost story, though that one's set in a forest. In these fleeting shadows, the protagonist and her mom move into this creepy haunted house because her grandfather has died and they have to go home to reclaim their ancestral home. And the protagonist has a lot of questions about why they weren't already living there, if it's their ancestral home, what was going on with grandpa and her mom. And the longer she's there, the more questions she starts to have because there are these mysterious holes that appear all over the property every night. And the house itself is built like a labyrinth where anything could be hiding. Some of the themes in this story are missing and murdered girls, cycles of violence and generational trauma, and the corruption of power. This one is another sapphic story, but the focus is definitely on the horror and the creepy factor with content like bodily mutilation, and references to sexual assault. If you like an atmospheric read, this one is for you. Our seventh and final book on this list is White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. The main character is a Black girl with lots of anxiety, and she and her younger brother and her mom and her mom's husband and his young daughter are all moving into this house. The town they're moving into is really creepy and feels kind of abandoned. There are tons of houses that are half burned or just full of mold, and clearly nobody has been living in them for decades. They're moving there anyway because they got this house for free. The town is offering grants to artists and writers like the protagonist's mom to try to revitalize the town and get things moving. Surprising no one, this house is definitely too good to be true, with weird sounds and smells at night, the dog barking at nothing, and even sometimes the shadow of some very tall man standing in rooms that nobody should be in because nobody should be home. And there's this basement door that's locked from the inside, and even the repair workers brought in by the leasing agency refuse to go into that basement. This story features home invasions, bed bugs, a creepy little girl, and bad things happening to a dog. He's okay though. I read this book when I had just moved into a new apartment and hadn't gotten used to the new sounds. So while I was reading it, every little noise made me jump because it really got into my head. It genuinely freaked me out. Like in all of her other books, Tiffany D. Jackson has such a strong narrative voice that makes you instantly want to get to know these characters and feel very connected to them. She's got a new book coming out in 2022 called The Weight of Blood that's a reimagining of Stephen King's novel Cherie. So if you like this one, there's more to look forward to in the year 2022. Here at Field Teen Center, we obviously love books, but we also love games. So if you're a fan of haunted houses, you should definitely come in and join us for a game of Betrayal at House on a Hill, a game in which you and several friends explore a haunted house one tile at a time. Because you're putting down random room tiles as you play and explore the house is never the same twice, so it's worth playing over and over again. As you explore, you discover omens that eventually trigger a haunting. And you get to play through retellings of a lot of famous horror books and movies. And usually one of the players at the table becomes the monster, and it becomes everyone else against that one very powerful person. Because it's a cooperative game, it can be really hard, and you might lose as often as you win, but it's always really fun, and there aren't too many games like this one. So definitely come visit us at Field Teen Center and check it out. If you're looking for more book recommendations, or if you just want to say hi, get in touch with us. You can DM us on Instagram, you can email us, or you can visit us in person. We're open Monday through Friday from 1 to 5 p.m. And these hours can change from time to time, so for the most up-to-date information about our events and any special programs, be sure to follow us on social media or check our website. You can find all of our contact information in the description box. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you find something great to read.